Welcome to Right On Communications, first in its next 25 series on the future of sustainability and storytelling. I'm Julie Wright, and I am president of Right On Communications, the strategic communications agency that I founded 25 years ago in Vancouver, BC, but now is based here in San Diego, where we are all today, with an office in Los Angeles and Seattle as well. We came together as a team and developed the Next 25 as a series to mark our 25th anniversary, but to do it by looking forward and taking a deeper look at some of the industries that have been really important to us, like hospitality, tourism, and travel. We want today to be participatory, so we encourage you who are here with us in person to use these question cards that we put on your seat. If you have a question, pass it up to Grant here at the front. And if you are joining us via Zoom, we have the Q&A feature on the platform, so please note your questions there. And we're definitely leaving time for those questions because we have a great panel and we know you'll have some excellent questions. Before I dive into the panel, I would like to welcome San Diego City Council Representative Stephen Whitburn, who is here from District 3. That is the San Diego downtown area, and it is an important travel and tourism hub in our region. And Stephen is going to share a few remarks, but I'd like to tell you a little bit about Stephen. He serves on many committees. He chairs the city's audit committee, and he is on your community and neighborhood services committee. And land use and housing committee, and he has many other leadership roles in the greater region. We appreciate you being here, Stephen, and I'd love it if you could give folks a welcome.
Absolutely, Julie, thank you very much for that introduction. Grant, thank you to Right On Communications for hosting this today. Welcome everybody. For those of you who are out of town, either here in person or virtually, welcome to San Diego. It is great to have you here as the council member who represents this district. Really exciting to have everybody here to participate in this discussion today. San Diego certainly is known for its beautiful beaches and its lovely weather most days of the year. And it is exciting to see tourism increase the way that it has in San Diego. And sustainable tourism is very important to San Diego because much of the tourism, much of the interest, much of the visiting to San Diego is because of our environment, because of the natural beauty and the natural resources that we have here in San Diego. Sustainable tourism takes so many different aspects, lots of ways to look at it. Downtown San Diego, one of the things we saw a few years ago was a huge influx in scooters, mobility. The idea being that it would help to improve the environment, less traffic, less pollution. Also had some challenges with that because many people were riding them on the sidewalk and that was scaring residents. We had a number of accidents. So we had both the benefits and the challenges around sustainable tourism. So I really applaud the conversation that you're going to be having today. Look forward to hearing more about it and really appreciate Right On Communications for getting us together to have this conversation today. As you've been doing with so many subjects over so many years, you mentioned 1998, founding the company, and I'm so proud that we were able to lure you into San Diego in 2000. And we have a proclamation that it is my honor to present to you today. Every good politician shows up with a proclamation. Now, come on. I won't read all of the whereas clauses. I won't do that to you, but I do want to point out that whereas Right On Communications has been recognized by Forbes magazine as one of the best PR agencies in the United States and globally by the International Public Relations Network with the 2022 Video of the Year and 2022 Project of the Year for its San Diego Tourism Marketing District educational campaign. Be it proclaimed for and on behalf of the people of Council District 3 that March 28, 2023 is Right On Communications Day in the city of San Diego's 3rd District. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Wow. Councilmember Whitburn, excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Honored by the recognition, and just appreciate all your leadership on so many issues in San Diego, homelessness and housing among them. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to next introduce all of our panelists. We have a really impressive group here, and I'll start with those online. Lindsay Gallagher is president and CEO of Visit Napa Valley, the official destination management organization for Napa Valley. Prior to the pandemic, the Napa Valley welcomed 3.85 million visitors annually who spent over $2 billion and generated over $85 million in tax relief for the residents of Napa Valley. Lindsay joined Visit Napa Valley in 2019 after 10 years as VP International Marketing for the California Wine Institute. So she's had some pretty good jobs, which also include the Today Show before getting her MBA. So a fun early start. There's a bit of a journalism theme here too. So I know Stephen has a journalism background. We're also joined online via Zoom by Tom Archer. Tom Anderson, who is Archer's Chief Operating Officer, Urban Air Mobility. Tom oversees and directs Archer's urban air mobility operations and is focused on establishing its commercial operating service. Anderson comes to Archer after 3 years at Breeze Airways, where he served as COO. And prior to that, he spent 5 years as an executive with ATR Aircraft and senior level positions at Airbus, Virgin America, and Boeing. Tom was part of the initial launch team that got JetBlue from concept to its first flights. And he's also a licensed aircraft technician and pilot. So pretty helpful guy to know. And then to my right here in San Diego is Todd Major, Senior Vice President with Lowe, where he heads entitlement, design, and construction in Southern California. Todd recently led the redevelopment of the 700-room Town and Country Resort in San Diego, and he's played a primary role in many of Lowe's most successful projects, including the Terranea Resort in Rancho Palos Verdes, and you'll tell us about that, I'm sure. Yeah. Todd was previously with Design Workshop and is a graduate of the University of British Columbia, like me, and he has traded his poutine for carne asada.
It was an easy trade.
Fish taco. Yeah. And then we are joined by Mia Taylor, who is an award-winning journalist with 2 decades of experience, and she currently contributes to the travel news site Travel Pulse and to Parents.com. Previously, Mia worked as a staff writer for America's largest digital publisher, which is Dotdash Meredith, where she contributed daily stories to Parents, Real Simple, Better Homes and Gardens, and Health. She's written for Travel and Leisure, the Boston Globe, the San Diego Union Tribune, Westways, Fortune, and more. And of her numerous awards and recognitions, I think she's quite proud of the time she was serving at KPBS, the NPR affiliate here in San Diego, where the team she was working together with won the Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism. So Mia is passionate about traveling sustainably herself, and I'm excited to hear from her. So that's a lot of talk, and I'm excited to get into this panel with a lightning round. And to kick things off, I thought maybe we could talk about where sustainability ranks in each of your organizations or your personal/professional priorities. Is it something that's an afterthought? Is it something that you live and breathe? Or how do you explain, let's start with you, Mia, where sustainability ranks for you?
Well, I'm an independent journalist now, so I don't necessarily represent an organization, so I can't speak to that part of your question. But in terms of how I live my life and how I raise my son, it's a part of our everyday life, from composting food after dinner to recycling to respecting the earth and treading lightly. And, you know, I look at my life every day and think about how do I lessen my impact on the planet. And for me, that has meant, you know, doing away with laundry detergent and using laundry detergent sheets, and doing away with toothpaste tubes and using toothpaste tablets every day. It's something that I think about because I feel this immense responsibility to my child and future generations. And this planet is not mine.
Awesome.
So,
I love it. I love it. And I think, yeah, we all should be using those laundry sheets. They're actually super practical. Right? Earthbreeze. Yeah, I'm using it myself. Todd, I'll continue with you.
Yeah, I mean, so speaking, if I put my low hat on, you know, it's a big part of how we evaluate and kind of make decisions internally as a company. You know, we're in the process of developing, you know, an ESG platform, and for those, that's environmental, social, and governance. And a lot of that, you know, is being driven by the market. There's expectations within the capital markets, within the lending markets, that that development companies like the one I work with has a program in place that benchmarks and tracks the gestures, the environmental gestures that they've made on their respective projects, and can track and show how these are benefiting not only their projects but the environment. And so obviously it's an important thing in terms of what we do. But it's also part of the three-legged stool. I mean, the economics of these things obviously play into our calculus. But sustainability can't be overstated as well.
Awesome. I've heard that, like, there's the altruistic reasons for this, and I think you spoke to that. And then there's the practical reasons, that you need to value sustainability today. I will move over to Tom at Archer and would love to hear more about how Archer values sustainability.
Yeah, so I think you'll see a video a little bit later, but we're building a electric aircraft, and so sustainability is at the core of what we're doing, which is to allow people to move in a much more efficient way and a much more sustainable way. So an aircraft with zero local emissions, and not only focusing on the CO2 footprint, if you will, of the aircraft, but also community noise levels and other things that get in the way of people, enjoying their life to the fullest. And I think to an earlier point, more and more corporate travelers value that they want to do business face to face. They want to, enjoy their lives to the fullest, but they want to do it knowing that they're, respecting the environment. And that's, at the core of, what we're building this aircraft to do.
Very exciting. And I did see the other day that San Diego awards the quietest aircraft, carrier who's the quietest, and, living nearby and working nearby, quiet aircraft. That's something we shouldn't undervalue. But Lindsay Gallagher, I would love to hear where sustainability ranks in Visit Napa Valley's priorities.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Look, sustainability is at the core of who we are here in the Napa Valley. We're an agricultural community, and we wouldn't exist if we weren't good stewards of the land, and we didn't do everything to protect the agriculture and the farming here, which first and foremost depends on a healthy environment for grapes to grow and for our community to thrive. As not everyone may be familiar, we established the first agricultural preserve in the U.S. in 1968 here in Napa Valley. And so that ensures that Napa Valley will be protected and remain first and foremost a world-class wine producing region ahead of all else. And so I guess it's safe to say that sustainability and a multi-generational perspective from ag and farming is in the DNA here in Napa Valley.
Well, that's awesome. And we want you to maintain that and continue putting out those great wines as well. So I think we're all aligned with that, Lindsay. So we all agree in sustainability. Maybe we'll keep going with you, Lindsay, that it's important, but I feel like it's one of those words that we've been using and hearing so frequently. It's come to mean different things to different places and different people. So how does the Napa Valley or Visit Napa Valley approach sustainability and define that term?
Yeah, absolutely. So, our mission at Visit Napa Valley is to promote, protect, and enhance our destination. And that's all about preserving who we are, our lifestyle, our healthy agricultural community. We are a community of farmers at the end of the day. And, the pandemic has certainly been an example of how resilient we are as a community, how we, will lend each other whatever it is we need, how we really focus on the collective more than the individual. And I think that we've been tested incredibly over the last 5 years. About 6 years ago, we had a very large earthquake here that was centered on downtown Napa. We've had our fair share of wildfires, and then you add in the pandemic. But at the end of it all, we're a community that supports one another. And so that is what motivates us, and why we do what we do, is to preserve and protect this beautiful environment. From a tourism standpoint, that translates into trying to drive business during need periods, which in our case is the midweek timeframe, Monday through Thursday. as well as during our shoulder season, which we refer to as Cabernet season. That is the November through March time period when it's a little bit quieter, but no less beautiful than other times of the year. And so that, from a sustainability standpoint, we approach it from managing visitor load and managing, the toil on the community of being so generous to welcome people here from all around the world. We try to balance that throughout the course of the year. So we're looking at individual and group and meeting business. We're looking at the day part in terms of Monday through Thursday. We are promoting mustard season, which you see behind me. That's today is a relatively rainy day here in Napa. But normally we have mostly have sun this time of year. We have the beautiful yellow mustard cover crop that blooms between the vines. It's one of the most magical times to come here, and we know it's still the depth of winter in many parts of the world. Right. And so we're happy to get to share that.
Well, that's perfect. And I love that idea of just there's plenty of time to spread this visitation around, right? And so you have, I guess, a heavier visitation during October. Everyone wants to come up for the harvest, but turning to the hospitality side of the equation, I'd also like to hear how Lowe defines sustainability, because the built environment is a big contributor to greenhouse gases and so on. So what do you do to mitigate your impact and footprint in communities?
Yeah, I think it depends. It's a project by project decision we make. So I think for us, sustainability is about good design. It's about understanding the context within your development footprint. What is the community characteristics? Are you developing next to the ocean, next to a river? Example being, Terranea, which sits directly on the Pacific Ocean, former Marineland site. We carefully thought about how we would approach that site and incorporate some pretty significant sustainable gestures. For the time, it was in 2009, it was probably one of the most cutting edge, green resorts in the country, to the point where we were treating every drop of rainwater and stormwater prior to it entering the ocean. We joked that, if we put a UV filter on it, it could be potable. But we also did things like, as we were quarrying the site to make the footprint for the building, all of that stone went into the building facades. So really, rather than importing stone from India, we were very conscious about how our development ecological footprint was extending into the development of the project. And then obviously that ethos carries forward into how the project's managed. And there's a litany of gestures that Terranea has ongoing that really specifically focus on how that project sits within this ecological reserve.
So sustainability is a choice that you prioritize as a development.
Yeah, it's a choice, and I think it's also a lot of it's market driven. I think there's an expectation from our guests that they're coming to a special place, and that we're going to respect that special place, and that's part of what they are. It's part of what they're getting. It's part of their experience.
I love it. Well, when I think about tourism, the other side of the coin is travel. We have to get people to these destinations. So we have an interesting perspective from Archer Aviation. We have the electrification of aircraft. I mean, transportation is the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions on the planet. We're seeing EVs obviously transition to electric, and now this movement towards electric vehicles. So I'm curious to know, Tom, how will these, you'll have to define eVTOL for everybody, but how will they affect how we travel in the future and affect our planet?
Right. So eVTOL aircraft, for those who are not familiar, is an electric aircraft that takes off vertically like a helicopter, then transitions to horizontal flight and flies, like a conventional aircraft, and then lands using, electric energy to move about, and therefore, zero local emissions. And so because the aircraft can take off vertically, and land vertically, we can utilize existing, general aviation airports or heliports to allow people to move around more freely, more sustainably, and more efficiently. So if you look in the Bay Area, there's not a person in the office here who wouldn't like to go up to Napa Valley more often. Yeah. And an impediment to doing that is people's concern about, use of their time. And also, when I buy that tank full of gas to drive up to Napa Valley, am I really, being, fair to the planet? And so we have a chance to, liberate people and allow them to, travel in this very time efficient, ecologically efficient, and as I mentioned, low noise footprint. And you saw a little video there of, our production aircraft, flying hypothetically from Newark Airport to Manhattan. And, if you want to go from Manhattan out to Newark or JFK or other places, getting in a taxi cab and fighting your way through traffic is not pleasant. And I don't doubt that, people would go up to Napa Valley more often if they could do it quickly and also do it in a guilt-free, manner. And, one of the things we've seen, around the pandemic is that, we're all locked up and now we all want to be close to each other, experience the joy of being close to friends, family, and all these experiences that we now value so much more because we had to put them off to the side for a while, but we want to do so, respecting the environment. And so
I think we all want to do it with a lot less stress in our life too.
Yeah.
And that sounds pretty convenient. And I think you mentioned that the fares are not going to be out of this world when you call it electric flying taxi. That kind of puts it in context. So
yeah, for people who are familiar with helicopters, are very expensive to operate because of the fuel they burn and the maintenance requirements associated with a gas turbine engine and these complicated systems to run a helicopter. And when you think about
simpler.
Yeah, when you think about your Tesla, you don't take it to the dealer every so often to get the oil change or do all these other things. Well, the same paradigm here. We can operate the aircraft without these burdens and operate them at a price that's similar to rideshare. So
you're describing a pretty cool future.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
we're all planning our trip to Napa, so that's great. And trying to figure out how we get frequent flyer miles from you. So I would love to learn more about something actually that Todd said, and I think Mia can help us with, is talking about market forces and talking about consumer expectations and people wanting to travel more sustainably and that becoming the norm and what people expect. How can a consumer kind of gauge? There's all these certification programs out there and credentials. Like, how are we validating what's greenwashing and what's actually for real?
That's an excellent question, and we write a lot about that. I think for me right now, the gold standard is B Corps.
Okay.
And for people who aren't familiar with B Corp or B certification, it's an exhaustive process that some of the companies I most admire, like Intrepid Travel, have gone through, and it takes months and years for some companies to get this certification. And it looks at their transparency. It requires rewriting their bylaws. It's an exhaustive process that looks at are you giving back to the community? Are you socially responsible? Are you operating sustainably? There's so many levels to B Corp certification, and I think, if I'm not wrong, Intrepid was the first major worldwide tour operator to get that certification. So I look at that as, one way to gauge as a consumer, do they have that? But not every company has the resources to go through that exhaustive process. So as a consumer, you need to be informed and ask questions. And a lot of these companies are proud of their sustainable efforts. So they're willing to answer your questions. Ask, are you giving back to the local community? What are your sustainability initiatives? Those sorts of questions, or look on their website for their sustainability page. There's so many ways as a consumer where you can ask questions all through the travel journey and booking process.
I love it.
And it's becoming more transparent by the day.
It is.
So yeah,
that is very helpful because I think we're all consumers of travel as well. So what to look for. And I'm interested to know, I've heard that Napa Valley is doing something kind of interesting in the certification space. And so Lindsay, I thought perhaps you could talk to us about what the Valley is doing to help green some of your operations.
Yes, absolutely. We have a program here in Napa Valley that certifies vineyards and wineries in areas as it relates to climate action and regenerative carbon farming, social equity, et cetera. It's a pretty progressive and rigorous program that currently exists in the vineyard and winery space. And about 40% of Napa Valley's vintners are certified in this program. We are working with the Napa Green organization to expand that Napa Green umbrella beyond vineyards and wineries and into the lodging space. So we have a pilot program that is underway at the moment with a variety of different hotel types in a number of different towns throughout the valley, so that we can level set best practices and a meaningful and rigorous certification program for our lodging community, with the goal of rolling that out more broadly throughout all lodging properties when the pilot comes to conclusion. So we're really excited. I think a destination like Napa Valley must play a leadership role in the tourism and wine space, and look at that intersection of how do we continue to share this beautiful piece of the earth with millions of people from around the world. We're a destination of 140,000 residents, and we welcome in a typical year, almost 4 million people into the valley. So we must do this with a mind to future generations, with the ability to protect the environment and our ability to continue to produce world-class grapes that can result in world-class wines that can keep Napa Valley an aspirational destination for wine consumers and visitors from all around the world. But in order to do that, we've got to play a leadership role. And we're very excited about this Napa Green program and bringing that through to the hospitality and lodging community. We're also investing in other community assets that are really gifts both to our community and to our visitors who come here, and make visitation more sustainable overall. One of those passion projects for us is the Napa Valley Vine Trail, which when it's finished will be a biking and walking trail that is 47 miles in length. And in theory, you're going to be able to eventually take it from the ferry as it arrives from San Francisco into Vallejo. You could then bike all the way to the north end of the valley in Calistoga. And so that's just a couple years from being complete, but obviously that has all sorts of exciting possibilities for the future of travel in our community, both for visitors and for residents on that 47-mile trail that will traverse the entire length of the valley.
Wow.
Great.
You can work off the wine tasting you also had the night before. So.
You know what's funny? We have a lot of e-bike companies that are now being popular. So people want to ride the bike up. You can taste dozens of wineries within a quarter of a mile of this vine trail, but people
really
want to bike
efficient,
and then they want to have the boost power.
Yes. Be careful. Maybe helmets would be a good idea. But yeah, absolutely. I also want to ask you that, Todd, because I think of like resorts and the built environment where there's a lot of certifications. I've heard LEED, for instance, is something that you can aspire to, but like, do those certifications, do consumers care? Do you want to do that? Does it add value or add costs?
Yeah, I mean, to date, it hasn't been an important component of what we do. LEED certification in hotels is exceedingly different. And quite frankly, I think Cal Green really has really upped the game for expectations and requirements for any built development. I think we tend to focus more on what are the market expectations of our guests and this ESG thing that I was speaking to earlier. I think that there's certainly expectations within the financial market, whether it's a publicly traded REIT or another investment vehicle. They have certain parameters that they are required to meet for investing into ESG businesses. So we have to be able to demonstrate that we're meeting certain criteria, benchmarking that criteria to be able to qualify for some of that money. So I think the expectations are not only from our guests, but also from the financial market, the debt and the capital markets, which really support what we do. So I think it's coming at us from both directions. For us, it's an easy thing to meet because we've been demonstrating it for decades, but certainly it's it's not a certification per se, but it's something that we're very conscious of.
Well, it's great because in a way that's like a market force that is just steering, the invisible hand, steering us towards more sustainable operations, which is a good thing.
It is a good thing.
But then there are times, and something I've read recently that I thought, Tom, you could comment on, is that some jurisdictions are wanting to restrict the number of flights or the number of routes going in and out of airports as a way to cut airport emissions or maybe even a country's emissions. And I'm thinking of Amsterdam,
Yes.
which recently
You just wrote about that.
you wrote
this
about
week.
this, Mia.
Yeah.
They cut the number of international trips in and out of their major airport. And so just generally, what can aviation as an industry be doing to make its operations more sustainable? Because I don't think the demand for air travel is falling.
Yeah, you're very right. So the demand for air travel is growing as other modes of transportation are becoming more green. Aviation's contribution to the overall emissions grows, and there's more and more focus and pressure on, aviation becoming more sustainable. And so we're fortunate that we get to be, pioneers in that story, and that there is constraints to the scalability of electric propulsion as it relates to, large transport category aircraft. But, we have the opportunity to, pioneer that technology and at least take our piece of the aviation space and make it, zero local emissions and quieter, and be part of that story in a positive sense. And, general aviation is one of the last places where, leaded aviation fuel or leaded fuel is still used. And so, we are, like I said, paving the way and allowing aviation to work sustainably and positively.
Well, a positive trend. And, I have to believe in the power of innovation. So it's one of our great hopes here. I'm just checking the time, and we're about halfway through the allotted time. We're doing a great job of covering a really juicy topic. So a reminder, if you have questions, to put them in the Zoom Q&A or to pass them up to Grant as we start to work towards audience questions. But I think now is the time to turn our attention towards the future and do our best to predict what's coming and help everyone participating today prepare. Obviously, an impossible task. If you had asked people in 2019 when Napa Valley was having a stellar year, what 2020 was going to hold, it wasn't what we got. So, but we know a few things. We know there's going to be a lot more people driving into hotels saying, dude, where do I charge my car? And there's going to be a lot more people who want to be on the floor of the Yosemite Valley. How do we accommodate everybody and manage the workforce that we're going to need for all these growing hospitality jobs? There's just a lot of factors out there. So I thought a way of doing this could be just to address some of our fears. And if we speak them, that's how we resolve our challenges. Let's all be honest with each other. And maybe we could have you kick it off, Mia, and talk about what scares you most, or what is your greatest fear when you look at the future of sustainable tourism?
I guess the lack of action among the masses. I think the leading edge people are aware of what needs to be done, and there's innovators and a lot of exciting startups in the travel tech space, and we're also thinking about and worried about this problem. But then, I get on a plane and I see, a plane load of people who may or may not be aware of, the serious changes we need to make in our lifestyle. I wrote stories this week about, record numbers of Americans are flying, and record numbers of planes are being ordered by plane companies. So we have so far to go. There's a disconnect between, we all are aware this issue exists, but we have to keep visiting our family. We want to keep having our vacations, and I don't want to flight shame anybody. So how do we bring those two things together in a way that works for all of us? That's what keeps me awake.
Right.
Sounds like valid concerns. Yeah, you're right. I mean, travel is just an important part of today's modern lifestyle. It's how we conduct business. It's how we also come to culturally understand each other. So we have to continue traveling. Traveling.
There's a lot of value to travel.
A lot of value.
Sure.
Absolutely. Maybe Tom, we could get your perspective on that. What worries you about the future of sustainability in travel?
I agree that consumer behaviors challenging to model and adapt. And if you think of the electrification of a car, we all had a car, and someone leading Tesla provided a way of making the car sustainable. And here we are building this amazing aircraft that allows people to think about traveling differently. But they don't know what they don't know. And so we've got this big challenge of introducing a new mode of transportation into the system, and then getting people to, adapt it and embrace it. And so, my worry is that we're going to do all this wonderful work building this amazing aircraft, and yet we got to get people to say, rather than get in my car to drive up to Napa Valley, why don't I go to the local place where the Archer aircraft is, say Palo Alto here, and go up to Napa Valley, via an Archer, and I can be there in 15 or 20 minutes and do it in a sustainable way, rather than their habit of just getting in the car and driving up there. So how do we change people's behavior in a positive way?
Change takes time. Change takes time. And I understand that. That's a great contribution. Thank you. And Todd, do you agree with that? And then have your own thought on what's...
I think, as it relates to hospitality, I think the root of hospitality is how we treat strangers. That's what hospitality is built on. And I don't think we're doing a very good job at treating strangers very well. There is a deficit of compassion in our culture. And I think that speaks to, this, how do we as a collective start to right the direction of our environment? And I think that's based around how much we care about one another and our future generation. So to me, what keeps me up is the lack of that. And I think that we need to get our arms around being nicer to strangers.
It's a beautiful sentiment. I mean, I agree with you. And I think it's a great reminder. I'm sure everybody's feeling like I am right now. Okay, note to self, be better to strangers. I try to do my best. So Lindsay, let's have you close out the doom and gloom scenarios, please. Pour some wine.
To pick up where Tom left off, I think what is most concerning to me in the short term is the staffing challenges that we have as a destination and everybody is facing, and that's holding us back from a full economic recovery. Do we have staffing, and what is driving a lot of that, I believe, here in the Napa Valley is the cost of housing. And so that's part of a whole, sustainability thought process of people need to be able to work here and to live here and to contribute to that world-class hospitality that is the hallmark of Napa Valley. We're a destination that over-delivers on expectations, and we provide over-the-top experiences at all price points and at all budget levels, but we are compromised in our ability to deliver that type of a product and that type of a service experience because of the staffing challenges that we face right now. So that's kind of a short-term concern, doom and gloom. And longer term, to take it back to where I started with my comments, we are a farming destination, and we need the health and vibrancy of our vineyards and the wine grapes that come from them. And the greater climate change challenges impact our ability to specialize and grow world-class, wonderful Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon that we're so well known for, given the concerning changes we see in the environment overall that potentially have an impact on our ability to grow these grapes and be stewards of this land. The present winter aside, the drought situation is certainly improved here. We have had nonstop rain since December, and we'll take every drop, and we're happy about that. But up until a month or so ago, the lack of water and concerns over water were paramount here as well. So plenty to worry about, but plenty to be optimistic about as well, I think.
And I do want to shift gears into optimism, absolutely. But just riffing off what you were saying about water, we learned that Seattle had less rain this winter than San Diego. And so, what is happening with our weather? But we'll take it. Absolutely, we'll take it. But it's just interesting. And so now we can all just reset, take a deep collective breath, and start to talk about what we're optimistic about and what the future holds. And when you look ahead and you think about sustainability in this industry, in tourism and in travel, what is the best case scenario? What type things do you anticipate, and can we all feel good about? Todd, do you have some thoughts on that?
Innovation and creativity. I think that will be our saving grace. I think that as an industry, there's huge opportunity, I think, to continue to lessen our ecological footprint. I think the adaptive reuse space in particular is very interesting to me. There's a lot of aging buildings that would convert well in specific markets. We did that at Town and Country, where we took, old hotel, really limited the footprint to new build to very limited 10,000 square feet.
For people who might be tuning in from elsewhere, Town and Country is a resort. I mentioned the 700-room resort here in San Diego County. So, and how old was it when you?
It was originally built in 55.
Wow.
So I think being able to take all of that existing development and reuse it and adapt it to a new use and a new life into the future, without having to use all of those additional materials. There's a lot of concrete. Concrete is a significant greenhouse gas contributor. So to me, that innovation within the adaptive reuse space, to me, is something I think that could be a really grand gesture.
Well, that's awesome. That's a good story, and I'm feeling better. So let's keep going. Mia, I would love to hear from your reporting which trends you feel, the most optimistic about. What can we all look forward to?
I think I'm most optimistic about human creativity. I just did a story about the 18 most influential women in the travel industry this year. And the ideas in that list and the startups that these women have come up with to address the challenges that the planet is facing are remarkable. And I'm awestruck by the things that people are doing right now to address the challenges that we all have to deal with. So I'm excited about the ideas that are coming to the fore right now, and that we will see continue to develop over the coming years. I think as people, we will find a way to adapt, and that's what inspires me.
I love it. Well, we will have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tom, from an aviation standpoint, is there a specific future that you envision that we can all get excited about with you?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing some work on some sort of business planning, and I looked at, well, if we had 500 aircraft flying, what would that mean? And what gets me excited is it means like 20 million people a year would be able to be transported on our aircraft, sustainably, enjoyably, and be in the sky looking down at the ground and enjoying the view and getting excited about going to Napa Valley or wherever they're going to. And so you talk about kindness, you talk about people being inspired, you talk about people being able to connect with each other. And when I think about 20 million people with 500 aircraft deployed, which is a fraction of what we intend, being able to live their lives in a much better way, that's what gets me excited, and hopefully something we can all pass on to future generations.
I can almost picture them out our window right now. Air taxis everywhere. Yes, the Jetsons, the future. Wow. Lindsay, share with us, when you look at the Napa Valley and your agricultural community, is there a future that you see and are excited about in terms of the sustainable tourism industry for you?
Absolutely. Napa Valley has always been known on the world stage for our hospitality and for our wine. And I'm excited for the next chapter for our visitor community to include sustainability, and for us to play a destination stewardship role as it relates to welcoming people to the destination, and making sure that we are preserving and protecting our ability not only to grow grapes and to make wine, but to welcome people here for generations to come. So nothing but optimism from here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, this ends the formal, and it's a great note to end the formal part of our panel on. We've had a number of questions come in via Zoom and from our audience here at Right On. So I am going to start with one of our Zoom questions, which comes in for Todd. And the question is that we love Terranea and its connection to the surrounding trails. What is next for the property?
I think, from a development standpoint, there's not much more that can happen out there. It really is, it was designed to sit within a specific envelope of the site. As you know, the person who asked the question, it sits on a geographic area called Long Point. So it's constrained by the ocean on three sides, and then a road on the northern side. So from a development standpoint, there's not much more to do. There's likely some things, golf course improvements and things like that will likely occur into the future. But I think we're really focused on, as that property evolves into the future, how do we continue to provide the community and our guests with a better relationship with that natural space. So the ocean space, as you know, the kelp beds have come back since we developed that hotel, primarily because we've improved the water quality. Nudibranchs, things that were long gone in the foreshore environment, have returned. The El Segundo blue butterfly has returned to the cliffs, which is an endangered species. So there's a lot of things that I think that have happened since we've completed that project. I'm probably as excited as you are to see what's next environmentally. I think really part of the special aspect of that project is letting it evolve, letting those natural spaces continue to evolve within themselves naturally. I think that is really what's going to be special into the future.
I'm excited to hear about species returning.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a
great.
real success story. This is a great question, and it is for all panelists. Do you need support from government agencies or private partners? What groups are not at the table that should be to help you push sustainability? I don't know if anyone wants to jump in on that.
I'll start. I was listening to a podcast about this very topic the other day, and it was an environmental expert talking about we can all drive electric cars, we can stop buying toothpaste tubes and use our tablets, but in order to really make meaningful change that's going to address the way the climate is warming, it has to happen on a much larger level than what car I drive and what toothpaste tube you use. And that means the government needs to come to the table and require some very large scale changes. That's just my opinion from listening to this woman. It can't be done on an individual level in a meaningful way.
I mean, there are things like the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Those have been set. There's the Paris Accord. We hear about all these things, and then at the end of the day, I'm not exactly sure how I'm supposed to behave or what I'm supposed to do. I just know I need to start drinking oat milk instead of cow's milk, and so I'm doing it, and I'm actually really enjoying my coffee a lot more these days. So maybe that's my more optimistic future. Is great coffee. Lindsay, a question came in for you from the room here, which is how are the vintners dealing with drought and water conservation concerns today?
Look, that's been something that we have been thinking about for a long time. And, our vineyards, majority of our vineyards are on drip irrigation at this point. And we have employed technology to be able to be very precise about how and when we deliver water. And, back in the day and in other parts of the state, there was, sort of flood irrigation, and we would just put a lot of water in when we only needed a little bit. Here in Napa Valley, we have not been doing that for a long time. And so again, it's about only watering and the points in time when the vine most needs it. And being very precise about how that's delivered with, we have great technology, the, weather stations that are out in the vineyard and deliver on a phone to a vineyard manager exactly what levels of moisture there are and how much sun that vine row saw that day. And so we can be extremely precise in how we deliver water when we do. That being said, it is beneficial for wine grapes not to receive very much water for most of the growing cycle, particularly at the end. We want that vine to be stressed, and we want it to be delivering all nutrients into the vibrancy of the fruit. And so we manage cover crop and the amount of leaf we have. We manage the way the vines are planted so that they are maximizing for either shade or sun, depending on the varietal and the type. And so anyway, there are a lot of vineyard management techniques that allow us only to apply water at very specific points and in very limited amounts. And so overall, as agricultural crops go, we are not a heavy user of water in the vineyard.
Another great use of technology, another innovations that are helping us operate more sustainably. A question has come in from an educator, kindergarten through community colleges, asking, what actions or messages can you share, and this is for all panelists, that have particularly moved youth to engage in a more sustainable future? So in the hospitality space, families come and enjoy. Is there anything, say, at the resorts that you've worked at that specifically engage youth?
Yeah, I mean, we have most of our hotels have robust kids club programs that, whether it's Suncadia, we have a large number of resorts that sit in these sensitive environments, and I think that people go there to interact with the environment. So wherever possible, we take advantage of that. I'll go back to Taryn. Yeah, we have this amazing raptor program there to keep the seagulls away. As you can imagine, we're on the ocean. As you can imagine, seagulls can become an issue. So rather than have more intrusive, less nice forms to deal with it, we have a raptor, and he flies around the resort and maintains the seagulls can't stand the raptor, and it's a variety of different raptors. But I think the kids being able to interact with that, understand the relationship between X, Y, and Z, and even just getting them down to the shore's edge and having them, interact with the ocean and understand, a lot of these kids don't get opportunities to do that. So, So I think there's sky's the limit for that. Yeah,
that's great. I did see the raptor, I think, in that video clip, and it is really cool. Yeah. Really cool. A question came in online, Lindsay, asking about the diversity in Napa, and noting that it's much more diverse than I think people realize. So how does Visit Napa embrace and celebrate the rich Mexican and Native American history of the Napa Valley?
Good question.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think, our role as the destination marketing organization and as stewards of this destination is to tell the stories of the people and the place. And certainly that the link between our friends and colleagues from Mexico is incredibly strong. And I think that's a story that's quite well known here in Napa Valley, but I had the opportunity in my prior role with the Wine Institute to try to help develop the exports of California wines to Mexico. And I was always so surprised at how little awareness there was in Mexico of how much the Mexican community is the fabric of our industry and has, really built the California wine industry. And so I think we still have work to do there, but we also have fabulous organizations here in the destination, like the Mexican American Vintner Alliance, that celebrates and promotes that Mexican heritage, and many of folks who have their own wine brands and their own labels now. There's quite a great group of fabulous wines coming out of our Mexican American community here in Napa Valley. And so we, as the destination marketing organization, can help to promote them and the work that they're doing, and purchase their wine so that they continue to be successful. But that's a very important piece of the story, as is the Chinese American history, and building many of our caves and really helping us develop the infrastructure in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s here in Napa Valley. And so I think those are all important stories to tell as part of who we are and how we got there and who helped us establish the Napa Valley. We also will be working with more intent on this type of storytelling in conjunction with Visit California, who's embarking on a heritage tourism campaign in the year ahead. And so they will be really leading the way, as Visit California always does for the other destinations within the state of California. But they have received some grant funding to tell the sort of native history of California. And we will be looking to follow their lead and to do that with more intent here in the Napa Valley, because that is such a relevant and important part of our history.
Well, that sounds fantastic. A whole new world of itineraries for the next trip to Napa.
Absolutely.
So thank you. I have a question. There's a few more here, but we've got the time, so I'm just going to butt and jump in the line for Tom. And it's about this new model. If you talked about 500 aircraft, and that's just a fraction of what you have planned, all of those aircraft need somewhere to charge. And so, how will that change the landscape of airports, or, where will all this charging, where will they park, sort of paint a picture of what the future might look like from an infrastructure standpoint to support this industry?
No, you're absolutely right. I think it's fantastic that a lot of work is being done on deploying more and more superchargers for electric vehicles, and that's an infrastructure that we can tap into and bring to these general aviation airports, or bespoke facilities we'll be operating out of. But we have a challenge not dissimilar to automobile industry and building a much more robust grid that can get electricity out to all the places we're going to operate. And a lot of these general aviation airports that I mentioned in the Bay Area and other places are struggling to be relevant in their communities, and by allowing us to operate in and out of these facilities and bring people to and from these airports, we get to allow people to reimagine what the local airport can mean to them.
Fascinating. I mean, we do some work in clean technology, so I can also imagine, what that's going to mean for the grid as well. And I know,
absolutely.
the electric vehicles that are coming on our roads are just, the tip of the iceberg. So another question had come in from the room here, and that was, what would you suggest to businesses and tourism authorities who want to increase their sustainability practices and aren't sure where to start?
That's a big question.
It's a big question. How would you evaluate? Let's rephrase the question and say, if you were to evaluate, what is a way to audit or evaluate maybe your sustainability practices so that you can look for those gaps or areas that maybe best practice is a little more advanced than where you're at? Is there a whole breed of consultants now for that?
Yeah,
I assume so.
Yeah.
How do you find them? Is there an organization, a body for that, or?
I think there's lots of them. I just wrote about one, Rose O'Connor, who runs Sustainable Wanderlust, and she works with travel agencies to train travel advisors on how to, build sustainable itineraries. That's a small answer to the question. B Corp certification, circling back to that, is a large answer to that question because they will evaluate how a business operates. But I think you probably had some answers to that.
I think once again, at ESG, I think benchmarking, right? So how do you, implementing sustainable gestures is one thing, but actually tracking them and providing metrics showing that they're actually, reducing the ecological footprint of a building, I think is another thing. And that's what ESG is intended to do, so that when consumers are in the marketplace, they can go to a company's website and that company is validating how they've reduced their carbon emissions or whatever that issue may be. And I think it's important. I think that's an important piece of it, being able to, so it's not greenwashing. You're actually being able to show how you're demonstrating measurable change in the market.
Yeah, those are great tips.
Another thing I would just add on that, Julie, from a destination standpoint, is I think that it's also, at a micro level, it's important that this is a two-way street. This is not just what the destination can do, but it's also how can the visitor have minimal impact when they're in your destination. And so I think that we all have to be part of that solution. And it's an education spectrum that we're only just, stepping onto the threshold, in my opinion, but it's about being a good visitor when you're in the destination but also giving concrete, tangible, achievable goals to visitors when they're in a destination like Napa Valley. And then also for our hospitality community and our resident community, doing everything that we can to preserve and protect. But I think it's important to think about it as a two-way conversation. There's a portion that the visitor can do, and there's a portion that the destination can do. The burden shouldn't be just on one side of that equation.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that and agree with that totally, and say that there's so much you can do as a traveler to tread lightly. And we just did a story about a study that 90% of travelers do want sustainable travel options. So it's a two-way street, because, it's not just the destination who needs to provide those sustainable options. The traveler needs to figure out how to be a sustainable traveler.
I think they also want clean towels every day too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the disconnect, right?
Yeah.
They may say they want that, but then they also get upset if they don't get,
Yeah, and that's the fear that keeps me awake at night.
Oh no, we banished that. We're trying to move on. But yeah, I understand that there's the tension, right? There's the tension. You're on vacation, right? So I understand that. We started like a minute late, and we have 2 more questions. And so I'm going to try to squeeze one in here before we conclude, which is, how will Archer Aviation keep innovating? And tell us more about your partnership with United Airlines and others.
Yeah, so we have two, major strategic partnerships. One with United Airlines. United's purchased aircraft from us. They're an investor in us, in Archer, and we've announced two routes that we're going to operate with United Airlines from Newark to Manhattan and from O'Hare to South Chicago. So important relationship with us. And then our other strategic partner is Stellantis, which is kind of the auto manufacturer that no one's ever heard of. But if you drive a Jeep or a Peugeot or a Maserati or a Chrysler, you're driving a Stellantis vehicle. And Stellantis is working with us on a lot of our manufacturing practices and other things. And Stellantis is a big advocate for electrification of transportation and re-envisioning how people can travel in the future. And so we're real fortunate to have Stellantis as a partner and United Airlines. And I think to an earlier question, I think if you go on Google Flights, you can actually see the CO2 emissions of your itinerary. And so how many people, when they buy an airplane ticket, just purely look at the price versus saying, a direct itinerary might be a little bit more expensive, but be a better choice CO2 wise.
That's a great comment, and I think a good note to end our discussion on. I feel obviously we scratched the surface. I think everyone did a brilliant job of digging into the issues, and I really appreciate the generosity of our panelists for sharing their experience, sharing their insights. I appreciate Councilmember Stephen Whitburn for coming in and representing the city of San Diego here. And I really appreciate all of you who chose to spend this hour with us in person here at Right On and via Zoom. Thank you so much. It's been an honor sharing this subject with you. I also want to thank the Right On Communications team, because we could not have put this all together without everybody at the agency contributing, chipping in, and making it a success. So a big heartfelt thank you to my team. And I hope you will continue to watch the Next 25 series. We plan to have a second event coming up in May. We're going to look at the future of storytelling technologies. So the metaverse, ChatGPT, just a few little topics like that. And I would ask you just to stay tuned, and we will see you soon.